Hello, hello. You guys able to hear me? This is Sean.
All right. Are we on? Are we doing this right?
All right. I don't think I have my audio on. I can't
Donnie, baby.
sound on. I can't hear you. So let me check something real quick.
All right. We have a little special guest. Yeah, we can hear you, Sean.
There we go. Now I can hear you.
Donnie, baby.
I can hear you. You want my camera on?
Yeah, hell yeah. We got to see that beautiful face.
I have no idea what we're doing here.
Show me
Hold
the
on.
mug. I'll tell you. I'll explain now.
Well, let me see if we got good light here, and then if I don't, then I'll. Well, look all right.
There he is. Man, you look as handsome as ever.
Go Cubs.
Oh my God. Thanks for jumping in. So Jeremy's kid, I think, broke his leg. So Jeremy's in the hospital.
Oh, I'm filling in for Jeremy?
You're filling in for Jeremy.
Oh, this is easy.
Jeremy sets a low bar. Is that what you're saying, Sean? It's a little rude, I think.
You said that. I'm not saying that. But I'm not disagreeing with you.
All right, so Hannah set us up. So we do this every week, Sean, and just so you know, I'm taping the Canes game. So please don't.
Right now?
They're playing at 8 against UAB. So I taped it. I'm watching. That's just to show you guys, and Sean can attest, my real dedication to you guys. And I'm tell him, Sean.
Look, man, the fact that you're taping a game against UAB, probably the only guaranteed win on your schedule.
Oh, that's low.
Oh, yeah. Come on.
Oh my God. So Sean's a Gators fan. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who don't know, so Sean McLaughlin is our chief option strategist. He gets to get first looks at all of our research every single day. And then he's always trying to create option strategies around that. And so when Jeremy's poor kid, I hope he's okay. Jeremy had to run to the hospital. I'm like, Sean, you want to jump in, talk some shit about the market? He's like, I'm game.
I like to talk shit.
So here we are. So tell him how great you are, Sean. Tell him all about your wisdom that you've learned from
that's your job,
Bruni and folks.
That's your job to talk about how great I am.
Listen, Sean does a nice job of bringing that third dimension, if you will, right? So we'll do the technical analysis, we'll do the top-down approach, we'll do all our bottoms-up stuff, and we'll decide that we want to buy these groups of stocks or sectors. And then Sean brings in that volatility analysis, that third element. How did I do there? Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, look, we're taking your research, or I'm taking your research, the excellent research that you and Bruni and Straza and the team put out. And I have the good fortune of being able to cherry pick what I think are the best ideas you guys got that I could trade with options. And I get to share it with everybody. The best ways to trade the trades that I'm looking at that were gleaned off of your research. So it's a great setup for me. It's a great setup for our subscribers. Couldn't be happier.
Love it. We use fancy words like gamma and theta and all sorts of fancy stuff. Things like sleeping at night is one that gets thrown around. Why don't we focus on that? Why don't we skip the Greeks? Why don't I, before we jump into the charts, why don't you give everyone a quick lesson on why do I hear you say it'll help me sleep at night, or I like sleeping at night? Why do you always say that?
Well, you only need to get a bad overnight beat once to teach yourself that you never want that to happen again. And I've been trading for 22 years. I started in 1998. And I can tell you, certainly, I've had my fair share of bad beats many times in positions that were either too big or I did not define my risk in a proper way. I got lazy, whatever. So I've learned the
All of the
hard
above.
way. Yeah, all of the above. So I've learned the hard way to, I put a premium on making sure that my positions are never too big to hurt me, so I don't have to stay up and worry about them. Whether it's overnight or just in general. Like I like you am very busy during the day. I'm not watching the tick every. I'm not watching the market every tick. I've just got a lot going
I've
on.
done that. That sucks.
No, it's the worst. I've done it. And I can't do it anymore. It's a young man's game. I know I look really young, JC. I know I look like a svelte 28 or so, but I'm not a young guy anymore. And so it's just, I know what my limitations are. I know what my time constraints are. And so my trading reflects that. I put trades on and size my positions in ways and define my risks in ways so that I don't have to watch every tick and tell Howard tell him to call later.
Howard, I'm busy. I'm on a live webinar, Howard. What should I tell the folks? Give me some wisdom to tell the folks. Guns and butter. All right, done. Call you later. All right, so I asked Howard Lindzon, right? Popular venture capitalist amongst the kids these days.
Never heard of him.
I'm like, Howard, give me something smart to tell the people. He says, guns and butter. So I feel like you've known Lindzon longer than I have. Oh, we've probably known about the same amount of time. I don't know what the hell he's talking about.
I've been in Lindzon's orbit since what, 2009?
His orbit. That's pretty funny. All right. So sleeping at night, it's not your son's fault. It's not your wife's fault that you are irresponsibly positioned in the market. And there's no reason for you to be extra stressed out, not sleeping, being a bad father, being a bad husband, just angry, stressed out. They don't deserve that, right?
No, I mean, they get that anyway, but they don't deserve
it. All right, touche. All right. So Shawnee baby, we've seen some selling in technology over the last week or so. Some really resilient relative strength in some underperforming areas like financials, like small caps. We're not seeing a flight to safety into bonds. We're not seeing credit spreads blowing out. AAII is like super bearish, twice as many bears as bulls. It just doesn't strike me as an environment that, we're about to get a major sell-off. This looks like more of like a buy the weakness sort of situation in the sectors that are getting beat up. Not all the sectors are getting beat up, but in the ones that are, in your experience, I mean, you're an old man now, your 40s, you're nice felt 40s. What have you learned in your experience of trend following and following trends over many different cycles? Does this strike you as the beginning of something larger?
Well, I'll tell you, JC, and this is the options trader in me coming out, but what I pay attention to when the market hits a little bit of turbulence is I follow the VIX pretty closely, VIX. That's the gauge of market volatility. It's, otherwise known as the fear index. And last week, when we had those first two sell-off days, the VIX spiked a little bit for sure, but it didn't even come close to going higher than the spike that we had in the middle of June. So to me, that didn't tell me that people are really all that scared, in spite of what the headlines wanted you to hear, and despite what all the crazies on Twitter are telling you. With VIX not even cracking 40 when we were selling off hard last week, that was my first, inkling that, we shouldn't be getting, scared yet. And then today we had a pretty ugly sell-off at one point, and we couldn't even break yesterday's high in the VIX. So, look, could it get worse from here? Of course it can. Of course it can. But the smart players, I mean, if you believe that volatility is the VIX index represents, what the smart players think about fear. And we could debate that. That's an open debate. And I'm not saying I believe it entirely, but if the big players and if the people who have a lot invested in the markets are getting scared, it's going to show up in the VIX first. And I'm not seeing it in the VIX. Now, certainly VIX is at elevated levels, historically elevated. But as long as this Corona business is still hanging over the markets and over the economy, I think it feels like the new floor in VIX right now is about 20, about 20. Whereas typically, historically, the VIX tends to stay in a range between 14 on the low end and 20 on the high end.
Let me push back now. Aren't you the one who's always telling me not to overanalyze the VIX?
Well, I'm the one who says you should not even bother trying to do technical analysis on the VIX.
Don't ignore it, though.
Yeah. And do I sound like I'm doing technical analysis when I say, 20 is a level? Yes, I do. But I realize that. But I'm not drawing Gann fans and Fibonacci analysis on this shit.
I'm just saying, I'm not, I can't let you off easy. Jeremy always just throws me alley-oops, so I can't just let you off so easy. So I got to do a little pushback. So that's fair. Okay, so we're getting asked, JB, about ExxonMobil and energy. You've been talking about that. Why don't we just dive into that?
We got short.
I could sit here making fun of how few national championships the Gators have, but the folks don't want to hear that. They want to hear about Exxon, right, Sean?
Well, if you want to talk about how many national championships have been won in the last 20 years, we could certainly talk about that.
Oh, there you go. There's that anchoring bias in you.
Nobody cares about teams that were playing when you weren't even alive, JC.
Yeah. All right. Why don't we anchor gold prices to like the 99 lows? Just convenient.
All right, well, regarding energy, we did get short energy today, or at least I did. Me and All Star Options subscribers, we bought puts in the XLE today. Which is not something I do often. And I talked about this in the blog post that I put out with the piece, is that typically when I or anyone's bearish, we're bearish usually for a reason, right? Like it's pretty obvious from the technical setup or the fundamentals that, we should be worried about downside or we should be taking shots at the downside. And when that happens, typically the options market reflects that expectation or that fear. And so premiums in puts or calls will tend to be pretty high when a stock or an index is looking like it's going to sell off, because people just get scared, right? The people who are long are looking to protect their positions, so they're buying puts. And the people who are opportunistic are bidding up puts because they want to try to cash in on a big flush to the downside, because we all know down moves typically happen a hell of a lot faster than up moves. So
escalator up, elevator down, baby.
That's right. So typically, when I express a bearish trade, it's usually, via some kind of spread or, a calendar situation. Rarely do I get an opportunity to just buy a straight put. But in this case, JC, it was kind of nice because, XLE, the energy sector complex, whatever you want to call it, had a big sell-off. Are you able to see this,
Sean? Are you able to see the chart?
What's that?
Are you able to see the chart?
I'm looking at my chart right now, but let me, okay. Yeah, I see it. I got you.
Great.
So, XLE and the energy complex had the big sell-off at the beginning of the year, right? I mean, if you look at that chart, you see XLE was like around, mid 60s, and it like tumbled down to 22 at the bottom of the coronavirus sell-off. And then we had a nice bounce like everything else. But, looking at that price action since May, I mean, that to me just looks like a bunch of tired participants. The bulls have lost steam. The bears have lost interest. It's just kind of nobody's playing. And this week, that level that you see there where the question mark is, that level, broke kind of quietly
down
this
30
week.
Yep.
And you don't have the options volatility chart here, but the premiums and the options are pretty much the lowest they've been all year, because it's just interest in the whole sector has dried up. So that really opens up a great opportunity for someone like us to, kind of be first in and buy some puts, buy them cheap, before this move starts getting pretty obvious to everybody else. And so if this thing sells off like we think it will, and the price target we have in the next 3 months is for XLE to get back down and test those lows of 23, if that comes to pass, we're going to benefit two ways. We're going to benefit because we're going to get the direction right, but we're also going to
volatility, baby.
Yeah, we're going to see a major rise in volatility.
Give me the juice.
Yeah. We're just going to juice the value of those puts even more. So it's rare that we get an opportunity to just buy straight puts, but I love the opportunity when I get them, and this was one of them.
And so you don't think they're going to pay that 9% dividend yield?
Does it pay 9% dividend?
Well, the stock's gotten slaughtered. You know what I'm saying? This is like the biggest company in the world, and they haven't cut their dividend. So yeah, 9.17% is what they're paying.
I did not know that. Wow, that's pretty juicy.
Yeah, they're not paying that. So all right. So we talked about Exxon. We talked about the execution here. Let's take some questions for the good folks. We're talking about, JB's talking about it's the tuition you pay, right? Losing money early on, no doubt about it. Sure. We talk about that all the time. You know, why don't we show the folks, this one's right up your alley, Sean, because one of the things, Sean starts yawning off when we start talking about Lithuanian indexes and emerging markets relative and South Africa priced in gold and like, right?
Even trade Lithuanian stocks?
We can, if you really want to. You know, it's not necessary. It's not a prerequisite. But Sean yawns off. So one of our new fun tools and useful tools is our under the hood watch list. So what we're doing is our math ninjas in the office have we all come together. I mean, we got math ninjas in, where are these guys now? In Moscow, one in New Zealand. Bruni's in New York, and Straza's in Key West, right? So those are our math ninjas that Sean and I rely on, right? Everybody needs math ninjas. So we scour the internet all over the place, options data, social media mentions, insider buying, all sorts of stuff. And we're working on some cool data because people just give us data. They're like, here, JC, we want you to have it because if it's in your hands with your math ninjas, you guys are going to be able to help me, you know, so it's in a lot of people's best interest for us to have this data. So anyway, we take all of that and we create a list that we feel, based on our algorithms, have an increased amount of interest, an unusual increased amount of interest. Like, we don't know why, we don't need to know why, we're just curious. And then what ends up happening is the following. So this is our latest watch list. This came out over the weekend. So the truth is, a lot of the names, I'd say half of them are probably names we're talking about. Look at number 2, Sean, Abbott Labs. You know, that was a nice trade we had on. Apple, CrowdStrike, Etsy, Facebook, DocuSign, Baba, right? Disney, NVIDIA. A lot of these are just names we talk about. Plug, Corvo, Roku, Twilio, TDoc, you know, ExxonMobil. There's a good one, right? So that's a good example of, just because they're on the list doesn't mean we're looking to buy. Just the fact that they're on the list is just one more reason to take a look at these particular stocks. And what ends up happening is that we do so much top-down work where we're looking at all the international markets that Sean doesn't care about, right? And then we're looking at all of this, right? We're doing all this top-down work. This is a bottoms-up universe to supplement all that top-down work. And this, along with another 4 or 5 different universes that we've built with our algorithms, really what it does is it makes it really hard for us to miss anything. That's really the goal, because we're getting all these ideas from all these different sources. We're kind of covering our bearings. So we take this list, we can probably check off half of them because they're already in our universe, maybe a little bit more. And then we'll probably have like 10, 15 names that are interesting, either from the long side or the short side, and maybe a handful of those each week have, you know, optimal risk versus reward sort of scenarios, and then we'll decide we're going to buy Zoom or we're going to short Exxon. And then Sean's like, oh yeah, baby, you buying Zoom again? All right, sign me up for that again. That thing kept working, you know, right? So yeah, Sean comes in at the end and sprinkles a little, how you doing, right?
We've had some good trades come out of this list recently for sure. I mean, Peloton came out of here. Abbott came out of here. We did a Facebook trade off this list like a month back. We've had some really nice ones.
Snap.
Yep. Oh yeah, Snap.
Yep. For sure. Workhorse. Hello.
Chewy was another one too.
Chewy. Yep. So definitely some good names. So this is right up Sean's alley. Sean wants more of this, less, Egypt versus Pakistan ratios.
Well, I mean, it's what you're not saying about this list is that, this list is the names that, for whatever reason, have captured people's attention, either because there's a story or there's price action or both. And look, man, when there's people participating in a market, that creates opportunities all by itself. So we're traders, man. We love opportunity.
This one caught my attention, Sean. You probably noticed more talk about transportation, railroad, logistics, freights. Here what we're looking at is we're looking at an equally weighted chart of industrials relative to the equally weighted chart of the S&P 500. So this is really a broad measure of industrials relative to a broad measure of the overall market. It's a really interesting breadth sector rotation dynamic taking place here as an equally weighted basket of industrial stocks, which includes railroads, truckers, yes, also airlines, and of course the big winners, UPS and FedEx on the freight and logistics side. But the railroads look great. UNP, Norfolk Southern, Straza, Mr. CPA fundamental guy texted me that Kansas City Southern might get bought out. So interesting stuff happening in the transportation. And what's really confusing, Sean, like the market wasn't confusing enough. What I think people don't understand is that there's the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which are 30 stocks. And then you have Dow Jones Transportation Average, which are 20 stocks. All 20 transport stocks are in the S&P industrial sector. Like, could they make that all more confusing for like new investors and stuff?
I'm not trying to make it easy for new investors. That's never the goal.
Jeez Louise, like it's confusing even me saying it. Like, and I do this every day and I've said it 1,000 times and it's still like, hold on. So all the transportation stocks are not in the Dow Jones Industrial. They're in these S&P Industrial. Got it. So this was a conversation we had, Sean. Have you ever met Todd Sohn?
I have not met him in person, no.
Todd Sohn, good guy, smart as hell. And we had a sector rotation happy hour because that's what technical analysis guys do for fun. Sit around talking about sector rotation, right, Sean?
Man, I bet the line out the door to get into that party was crazy.
Dude, you and I were ripping shots at a bar in the Village. I remember, like on a Wednesday, and Todd Gordon was there, and it was just the three of us talking shit. And what were we talking about?
We were debating about whether the bull market had run its course. And not to throw Todd under the bus, but he was certain that the market was about to crash. And this was 2 years ago.
So one for the good guys is what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I just remember that every bearish argument he made to you, you basically just laughed at him. But you were right.
No, and Todd's friend of the firm, just busted balls. He's a good guy, Todd. Great skier too.
Oh yeah, Todd's
and then him and he's a big options guy like Sean. So that when they start talking about like the fourth derivative here, like what? 6 leg options trades and shit like that.
We ended up having a big discussion about iron condors. I remember that he was talking about that were paying his mortgage.
Yeah. Needless to say, that's where I start yawning. And I'm like, I don't need 6 leg options trades. It's just not necessary.
I do know that
right
I do remember that he promised his wife he'd be home in 30 minutes. And then next 6 hours later, we're still arguing about iron condors.
Yeah. Sounds like a pretty standard night in my old world anyway. Haven't done those things in a while. Sean, have you taken a look at this guy? Have you taken a look at the short list? Are we teasing this a little? Let's tease it because it's something that we've been talking about internally. I don't know if you've gotten wind of this bad boy.
I've heard the rumor, but I have not seen the names.
Oh man! So our math ninjas have been hard at work. Not just scanning through stuff and building stuff, but hiring Russians and Kiwis to help us do that with the scripts and whatnot.
There's a lot of sexy names on this list that are going to make some people uncomfortable.
Sexy like how?
Oh, names like
These are like what?
Cisco and Wells Fargo and Exxon and Holly. Oh,
Instead,
no.
Strauss is like a nice guy, and he's like, oh, we'll call this the short list. You know what it should be called? It should be called the biggest pieces of shit. Dumpster diving, right? Like these are the worst, showing the relative weakness, bearish momentum, biggest drawdowns from new highs. Like this is the stuff that the market has decided they don't want to be buying. And if they haven't bought these stocks in this environment, that's been one of the biggest face rippers of all time. Think about that. This is one of the strongest stock markets of all time. And this list of stocks didn't get that memo. Yeah. So there's wisdom in relative strength. This is that. We call it relative weakness, but it's the same thing. It's same as relative strength. In this case, it's a lack of relative strength, right? So basically, this is I don't want to say it's the exact opposite of a lot of our bullish scans, but kind of. I mean, right? It's using the same idea, same philosophies.
The only thing that sucks about this list is that if and when the market gives us the signal that it is time to really get aggressively short, these stocks that are already down so much, man, it's going to be tough to trade these guys.
Yeah, but at that point, that's where it can't go any lower. That's where those conversations start happening. And Sean, you've been around, right?
Yeah.
And when you hear those terms, those words, oh, how much lower can it go? Isn't that scary? Isn't that like when you hear that?
Yeah. I mean, look, some of these stocks definitely will be on my radar as short opportunities. Absolutely.
All right. Why don't we talk about some of the under the hood stocks? WKHS, a favorite of ours, no doubt about it. Why don't we show the folks? Let's see, let me pull this up. One thing I learned, Sean, is you got to give the people what they want. And you know what they want? They want trade ideas. Like all this macro stuff and interest rates, like all that's great. But at the end of the day, they think like you.
You're a people pleaser, JC.
So this workhorse, this thing literally tripled immediately after it broke out of this base. So this was one of the first names when we started calling it under the hood and really aggregated all of our data, because we were getting a lot of this data, let's say half of it already, and just kind of piecing it together, but we were not compiling it as organized as we started doing a few months ago. And Workhorse was definitely one of the first ones, literally tripled right away, and then has consolidated for the last couple of months. So to me, that's a consolidation in the direction of the underlying trend. This is exhibit A, B, and C. This is why we do this, Sean. This is
that's
why
a
we
sexy
have
chart.
under the hood.
That is a sexy chart that's gotten me looking at volatility in the options right now.
That is a sexy, sexy chart. And if Sean thinks it's sexy, because Sean knows sexy. There's anything that Sean knows.
Yeah. Well,
are you bringing sexy back with that plaid shirt of yours?
Well, JC, yes, the answer is yes, but also
obviously
your chart there, as sexy as that is, needs a little updating, because we actually did break out of that range in the last couple days here.
Oh yeah. Does that surprise you? Does that surprise you, Shawnee boy?
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah, I would like this trade. As an options guy, I wouldn't buy straight calls here because the volatility is a little rich. But some kind of spread would be tempting here. Maybe a bull call spread where I buy an out of the money call. Maybe it looks like January options would probably be the best choice here. I'm just spitballing. I'm not actually putting this trade on right now.
You mean you're not buying options at 8:30 at night Eastern?
No. But yeah, I mean, the January 22 strike calls, which are just slightly, or they're at the money right now, sell maybe, wow, there's a lot of premium in the upside here. You could definitely sell like the 30 strike calls against it.
You can get that much premium for the 30s?
Yeah.
That's
Thir-
like,
the 30s are
wow.
paying their bids $6.10 right now.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
So
pretty
you'll
juicy.
sell the
So
30s and buy what, 21s, you said?
probably by the 25 strike.
25. Got it.
By the 25, sell the 30s. I mean, you'll get into that spread for $1.50 maybe. That looks like a pretty tasty trade.
And then what? You could best case scenario, right? So you take half off the table.
No, with a spread, what I would do is let's say I bought the 25 and sold the 30, right? So it's a $5 wide spread. If I pay a
Both
buck,
January.
yeah, in January. So if I pay $1.50 for it, that means the most I can make is $3.50, right? So because $5 is the most a spread could absolutely be
Yep.
worth. If I paid $1.50 for it, then that means the most I can make is $3.50. In a situation like that, where my upside is capped, right? I can't make more than $3.50 no matter what the thing does. I will look to sell the spread, close the entire spread off when I've captured at least 50% of my maximum profit. So, just doing some ghetto math right now, if I paid $1.50 for it, I'd probably look to sell it for $3, sell the whole spread for $3.
Best practices, right?
Yeah, because what's going to happen is, let's say this thing takes off and it, we buy it here and the thing trades up to like 29, not quite to where our short option is at 30, but it trades up there, and yeah, I could sit here and hold it and wait for the theta decay and hold it all the way to January to maybe squeeze out another dollar, but you're holding a lot of risk at that point. The thing could easily reverse on you. I just, I don't want to be greedy. I just want to take the sure profit, get out, in and out. The less time I could spend in the trade, the better.
Why don't, when it comes to best practices, Sean obviously focuses on the option side, but I think there are a lot of best practices in general. And I think it's really important to outline what that discipline is going to be and stick to that, regardless of what it is, whether you're trading equities or futures or options or Forex, it doesn't matter. Having that plan, like Sean said, in this case, well, I can only make X. So as soon as I get 50% of what I could possibly make, I'm out, right? That's his plan. You might not like his plan. You might create a different plan, maybe a variation of that that's more suited for you, but have a plan, right? That's the idea. And it reminds me of just being a baseball player, Sean. As you're an infielder, outfielder, you're anybody on the field. You have to know, if the ball is hit to me, what am I going to do with it?
Right.
This is before every pitch. If you're the shortstop, oh, man on first, all right, we're going to turn double play. He gets hit in the gap, I'm going to go do this. You have to know where you're going, no matter where, right? This is the same thing, I think.
Yeah, well, you got to have a plan going in, because when the shit hits the fan, either good or bad, when stuff gets crazy, if you don't have a plan, you're just going to act emotionally, and it's going to hurt you either way, whether it's a winning trade or a losing trade. You're likely going to make the wrong move, and that's not an edge that you can kind of build on over and over time. You got to have a repeatable process. I see a question there from JB. I want to answer him real quick. He's asking if I were to do this trade, would I hold it through the earnings on November 9th? And the answer is, if I'm still in the position, yes. And the reason being is because this is a defined risk spread. I'm not so worried about it. I accept the risk up front from day one. When I put the trade on, I think it collapse tomorrow. And if it does, well, I know what my risk is going to be, and that's it. So that includes
Even
earnings.
at night.
Now, I don't let pending earnings scare me out of trades if I'm in a trade, but where earnings does come in, I get this question a lot, where earnings does come into play for me is if I'm considering putting on a trade and earnings are coming up like in the next few days, maybe I'll hold off and wait for things to shake out. But if I'm in a trade and I've been in it for a few months and it's doing what it's doing and then earnings are coming up, I'm not going to do anything special. I'm just, ride with the horse that got me there.
Sean, it just occurred to me, I'm going to actually share the under the hood scanner while I ask you. So this came out on Saturday, not to mention a list of all of our favorite trade ideas from the scanner. You're essentially the same person as, our readers and our subscribers that get this under the hood watch list, in their inbox over the weekend, right? You are no different.
Yeah, I don't
We'll
have
talk
any
about
insight.
volatility and stuff like that, but this particular set of analysis that we put together has nothing to do with you. You are the beneficiary of it, and you start going to work as soon as you get this. So why don't you tell the folks that maybe are not subscribers to Under the Hood, and if you want to drop the link in there so that they can see. Sean, what is it like? What does it feel like when you get this email?
I don't want to put down anyone else's great effort throughout the week, but if there's one piece of content that I look forward to every week since we started, it has been definitely the Under the Hood watch list, because like we mentioned earlier, there's just been so many good trades that came out of this, because there's a lot of activity here, and it's activity that people have a lot of interest in. And so not only are they good trade opportunities, but a lot of people just like talking about them. So I get to engage with a lot of people once I put a trade on that came out of this list. So I think this is great. And it's definitely something I look forward to every week.
Why don't you tell me a little bit about what do you do? Like, okay, so you get the email, you're like, okay, great. List is up, whether it's on Saturday or Sunday morning, list is up. What do you do next?
So, there's usually 6 or 7 or 8 names on the list that are really the key that that Straza and the team are talking about. So I'll look through all 8 of those names, and the first thing is I want to see, well, what's the price action look like? Because he'll say something like, we like this XYZ stock, but only if it's above $28 a share. And I'll pull up the chart and it's trading at 26. I'm like, all right, well, it's not ready yet. I'll keep an eye on it. It's on my radar and I'll check on it throughout the week. But for now, it's a no play. And so I'll go through all the stocks and see which ones are, at least in the buy zone, or maybe it's a sell zone. At some point, we'll have some sell plays off this list. But look through the ones
Nikola,
that are.
remember Nikola? That was a good one. And Exxon.
That's right. Nikola was a short trade that we did off that. I forgot about that.
And why are you hating on the shorts? Come on. It's a two-way market. Come on.
They're just so rare these days, Jason.
They are. Fair.
But so I'll go through the list and see which ones are in a zone for us to put a trade on first. And then I will, cycle through the options chains, because sometimes these names don't have, they don't have options that have a lot of volume in them. Which is unfortunate. The reality is that most stocks, at least most S&P 500 stocks, are optionable, but out of the S&P 500, probably most of the volume is concentrated in the top 100 names. And the last thing you want to do is get into an options trade where the options, trade by appointment, so to speak, and they have a huge bid-ask spread. If you're in a bad trade, you're trapped and you can't get out. So I'll go through all the names and see which ones have liquid options. And if they got liquid options and if they're in the zone for us to take action, at that point, it just becomes a gut feel. Okay, I got three charts. They all look good. Which one am I going to trade? And I'll pick the one that just feels the best. That's where the 22 years of trading experience comes in. That's
I love it. So
tells me what to do.
Rox has a question. Is this list more for options traders? No, the answer is absolutely not. This is for anybody interested in putting money in the market, from the biggest institutions in the world, who, by the way, love this list, to somebody opening up their first brokerage account, and really everyone in between. It's really anybody who's looking for idea flow, which is, I don't want to say everybody, but pretty much, right? Anybody who's in the market is looking for new ideas, good risk versus reward opportunities. Sean is here. He's our chief option strategist, and he's stepping in today for Jeremy, who unfortunately couldn't make it today. His son, I think, may have broken an arm or something. Poor kid. So he had to run to the hospital. So I invited Sean, smart, really good friend of mine and our chief option strategist. And what he does is that he gets this list and then he does what he does and starts figuring out options trades. But a lot of our investors don't trade options. They just trade the equities, because what we do in our list is we identify what the list is. Here are 50 names, 60 names, 40 names that have our attention. And these are our favorite 5, 6, 7, 8 trades. And we outline exactly where we want to buy it and where we want to take profits. And most importantly, where we're wrong, right? Where we admit, oh, got this one wrong, we got to move out. So there's 6 or 7, 8 sometimes ideas in every week's report. And then if you trade options, then create options trades around them. That's fine. That's what Sean does. But, everybody trades in different ways. I think the idea itself is really what's most important. And I love this list, as well as a couple others that we have. But this one, I don't want to say is the sexiest, but pretty sexy, Sean.
It's pretty sexy, JC. It's pretty sexy.
It's pretty sexy. Under the hood. I think that was I think Itai came up with that. Itai's the brains behind the operation.
We can't give Itai the credit. Come on.
I'm pretty sure it was Itai. It sounds like an Itai kind of name. It was either Under the Hood or Robin the Hood. I think we're. So look, let me drop some knowledge on you. This is Gigondaz. You see that?
I see it.
This is my favorite Rhone cru. So
Okay.
if you like Grenache and Syrah and Mourvedre, I encourage you to get involved. This is a nice little happy hour with Sean and I. Sean's more of a beer guy.
This is my $5 all-you-can-drink beer mug from the college football bar that was near my house in Chicago.
Love that. And they let you keep the cover. You stole it.
Oh, you get to keep the cup and bring it back for $4 refills.
Whoa, such a deal.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Any further questions? You know, I lay it out there. I mean, you have access to Sean and I. If there's anything you guys are interested in, we're happy to address it. In the meantime, Hannah, if you want to drop that link, guys, I encourage you. What are we charging here? We're charging $79 for the whole year of this list, Sean. What do you think about that price? Sean's like, well, that's way too low.
You're not going to start charging me, are you?
Would you pay $79 a year for this list?
I think I probably would.
You would probably pay $7,900 a year for this list, wouldn't you?
Well, I've already earned enough profits from that list to pay for that, so possibly.
There you go. So you heard it right here from the horse's mouth. Listen, I don't know why it's so low. I think really what it is to give everybody an inside look as to what we're doing at our firm, right? And this is one of our great lists that we think adds a lot of value. So I'm pretty sure the powers that be, you know, what they had in mind was, listen, let's give the folks a break here. Let's let them sign up for $79 for the whole damn year. You know, I think it's really probably just to show off what we're doing a little bit, impress the folks, and you know, if you like what we're doing, maybe you upgrade to premium. If you like what Sean's doing, you upgrade to options and get those ideas. You know, so a lot of routes you could take once you get to know us. And I think the Under the Hood weekly report is probably a good way to show off, you know, what we're doing, right, Shawnee?
Right on.
All right, so why don't we talk about the MES? Is that the name that we're being asked about? MES. What do you think about? So this is the Market Vectors Gulf States Index ETF. Is that right? Do I have that right? Do I have that right, guys? MES. Is that what you guys are talking about?
That's not what comes up.
That's not a thing. I was going to say, this is a new one on me. Market Vectors Gulf States Index ETF. Oh, NLS. No, that's a different one. All right, let's go look at NLS. So this is this is the weight equipment. Is that what we're dealing with? Nautilus here, NLS. So Nautilus. So here we're talking about consumer cyclical leisure, Nautilus Fitness Solutions. This thing has come quite a long way off the lows. Maybe this thing was left for dead, and then everybody realized that people would need.
This was a $1.50 stock back in March. Wow.
Yes, it was. Here, let me share the screen.
I think this is riding the same Peloton craze.
Yeah, you know, that's certainly what it looks like. You know, this thing absolutely collapsed. This thing would have shown up on our short list right around here, if you guys can tell. Right here, this is where it shows. This is what the type of stuff that we're looking for. You know, new relative lows, you know, completing tops. We'd be shorting it right around here. Sean would be getting excited right around here or something, you know, nice gap lower. We just download all the data, make sure it's accurate. But we're back above all of those levels here, which is interesting, actually. You know, it's made quite the move, though, Sean. How do you feel about things that have made such a move like this?
Well, I mean, that's the all-time high right around 25, right?
Yeah.
I probably wouldn't want to get involved in this thing until it did a little bit more sideways consolidation here for a little while longer, and then broke out meaningfully above $20 is probably where I'd get interested.
I think this is probably a pretty good lesson here. I think it's worth talking about.
I mean, right now I'd be worried about overhead supply from all those trapped longs from.
Well, why don't we take a step back here, Sean? Because I think there's a lesson. I think there's a lesson about a little thing that us geeks like to call support. How do you feel about support there, Shawnee baby?
Well, I mean, that is some solid support, and it's not. And there's got some real support at 0, not too far below there.
That's what we said about oil.
All right, you got me there.
You know, it ain't, what is it? It ain't what you don't know. It's what you think that you know that just ain't so.
Yes, sir.
Oil negative. So no support at 0. That was some shit, man. I thought I had seen everything.
I'll tell you though, I back in March there when that thing came back down to test that low, I'm just going to be completely honest with you. I would not have had the stones to step in and buy that stock right there.
It's not the point. It's not the point. I think the point is that the academic community is going to tell you, like Louis' teacher, like the guy in New Zealand, this presenter that's talking about how technical analysis, like it doesn't work and it's nonsense. These assholes are going to sit here and tell you that the fact that it bottomed at these prices is just a coincidence, that this has nothing to do with supply and demand dynamics. Can you believe that they have the audacity to tell these poor kids that are probably paying a fortune to be at the school? Can you imagine?
Price has memory, as we know.
Price has memory. So, all right, folks, what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave this up. I want you to take a look just so you could see. This is the latest watch list. You'll get this every week. Hannah, if you want to just drop that in one more time, I am going to go and watch. I'm going to go watch college football. I've had quite the day. A lot of charts, a lot of meetings. But Sean, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. And I know the viewers out there. I know JB loves this shit. But the viewers out there, I think got some good insights. I think a couple of good key habits to probably keep the risk management, the process side. I appreciate you stepping in here for Jeremy. You don't have the tan that he has or the hair.
I just got a haircut today, actually. All short.
You don't have as much product in your hair as Jeremy.
No, not a product guy.
Not a product guy. Not a product.
Well, you know, if I lived in Laguna Beach, maybe I'd wear product.
And you'd have a nicer tan.
For
Didn't
sure.
it snow where you are this week?
It did. We had like 6 inches of snow.
Dude, it's not even football season yet. It's already snowing in your house.
Well, it's already melted. It's all gone. It was fun while it lasted. We had a little snowball fight yesterday.
You live in a beautiful part of the world. I look forward to coming to visit, doing some downslope skiing with you, giving you a one-on-one lesson. Think about this, Sean. You're going to get a private ski lesson from your boy, All-Star Charles. We should probably host a contest. If you've never skied before, you get to learn how to ski from JC, and then you get to join Sean. You could talk about options on the ski lift while JC's in the back.
I'm green line all day, baby. Let's go. We'll take the green runs every time.
No, you're not going to do any greens. You're going to do some bunny slopes, and then we're going to hit some real you need gravity to move, man. These things you're going to be working your triceps. Like, this is ridiculous. All right, guys. Sean, I really appreciate you being here. Jeremy, I hope everything's all right in the hospital and all that. Be in touch. Let me know how everything worked out. And go Canes.
Go
I hope
Gators.
the Gators lose every game this season. I hope they lose every game.